you, Chair, as a non-member for coming. I just want to, for a couple of quick questions. In terms of MIT, right, has the Department or the HSE signed any confidentiality clause with St. Vincent's in terms of what can be put out there in respect of the contract? That's number one, because there is a MIT, okay, there isn't. No. Okay, that's good. Secondly, to get down to the nuts and bolts, the land itself, if I go to land registry after the hospital is built, who will I see has title to the land?
You will see at the moment what this is probably trying to give a lesson in land law in
no, for the layman.
At the moment, there's no registered title. So if you go to land registry, you won't see any. If you click on
when you've done all the work, right?
When we've done all the work,
I presume that's because it's there for so long. It was never
correct.
It's a registry of deeds rather than title.
Correct.
Okay. So when it goes through, what name will I see in the land registry office?
Okay, so when this lease is signed, it will be lodged for registration in the Property Registration Authority, and there will be a leasehold folio issued, and the registered owner of that leasehold folio will be the Health Service Executive. And it will in the short time I have, it's nuts and bolts, right? 299 years, yep.
So you have the land.
Yep.
We're being told the building on top of the land is going to be built by the state, correct, the HSE. It will be interlinked with Vincent's to provide these synergy of services for the women environment, which we all welcome. We need to get down to dispel all the myths and get down to nuts and bolts. So for the ordinary person out there, the impression is being given that the building itself will be in the ownership of the HSE. From what I've heard today, I get the impression it will be leased to the HSE. So these points need to be clarified. So the land itself will be in the title of, I'm assuming, St. Vincent's Holdings.
Freehold title.
Fine. The building on top of that, and I look at, that will be registered in some form.
Well, it will be registered, the leasehold interest for 299 years will be registered in the land registry with the Health Service Executive
as the lessee.
As the lessee,
okay.
Leasehold owner. Yes.
Who physically pays for the $1 billion for the cost of building the hospital? Who's going to pay for that?
The state.
It's a combination of the National Maternity Hospital and the state.
What's the breakdown?
It depends on the sale prices of Holles Street.
So it's not strictly going to be fully funded by the state?
No, there's a contribution, a very important contribution from Holles Street as well.
That needs to be put out there as well. So the question I'm getting back is when the building goes out for tender, who will issue the tender? Who will be the
HSE.
Okay,
HSE,
so yeah. They'll be the principal tender. When the building is built, I need to get from it being built to then being who owns it, because physically it strikes me at this moment in time, the state is funding what percentage? Is that in the pub? What percentage of is it going to fund?
It depends on various things, which we can't know yet. It depends.
So that's a huge factor for the public to know. So it's not being totally funded by the state. It's being funded by Holles Street as well, correct?
Receipts of the sale of Holles Street, yeah.
Receipt of sales of Holles Street. Fine. Is that in the public domain?
Yes.
I assumed it was, yeah.
Okay. So, but for many people, it isn't, right? So when that's sold, right, is the HSE and the state, do they own the building, or is the building physically owned by St. Vincent's Hospital Group?
So I'll answer that. St. Vincent's, and it's. I think it's very simple, and people can make it very difficult, and they can say a lot.
Well, I'm trying to simplify it.
Simple. The HSE has a 299-year interest in land. It will build a building on that land, and for anyone's, and you can get into Latin maxims of buildings attaching to land. For 299 years, the only party who controls that building is the HSE. I
accept all the control. The bottom line for me is, if we explain what the facts are, the public want to see the hospital being built, but they need to understand in their own heads, and I'm one of those, as to how it's getting to that point. I'm not particularly, once I understood how it gets to the point, right, I'm quite comfortable with what's being proposed. We need the hospital, and the final question before, if this goes ahead now, when will it be built? And when will it be in operation for the women of Ireland?
Thanks.
And I want to quickly then come back on, because I know what you're asking me in legalistic language. I want a little bit of layman's language.
I might just give you a timing answer. So the good news is one of the things that typically can take a very long time, add years, is planning.
Yeah.
Planning is done.
Yes.
Right.
Since 17.
That's right. Planning is done.
Okay.
The detailed design, the design is done. All of the partners are ready to go. We've already had enabling works with pharmacies and car parks and so forth. So it will obviously, something this complex will still take several years, but the various
Give me a date, Minister. Give me a date.
I can't at this stage, right? I can't.
At least 2028, at least.
So it could be up and running in 6 years' time, at a minimum.
At an optimum, I think.
At an optimum. Otherwise, if it goes back, it's 15 years.
Absolutely.
And the final point then, just go back. Tell me the building itself. Am I correct in saying the state will fund a large portion of it, the proceeds of Hollis Street will fund the balance, but the building itself, if I go to the land registry, the freehold of that building will be held by St Vincent's and then given back as a long lease to the HSE. Is that correct?
So the lower interest there is the 299
No, I accept
years.
that, but am I correct?
But yeah, you're correct. Freehold and leasehold. There's two separate interests.
No. But the freehold in the building will be held by St Vincent's, but it comes back to the state as a 299-year lease.
And if you look at the lease, there is no ability for St Vincent's, other than in a default situation, to take control of that building, and that needs to be very clear. And I'd ask the people who are putting out the information about title to tell us why the state needs a freehold. Tell us what's wrong with the lease arrangement, and in particular, tell us how a freehold works without all the rights we've built into this document. This is, as has been pointed out before, it's on a shared campus.
Yeah.
There are shared access routes. There are shared facilities. You cannot do that by a freehold agreement, a two-page transfer of land. There you go. There would still need to be an agreement between the state and St Vincent's about how they operate that, both those buildings. And that is all dealt with. And I'd ask anyone to go through that document, Roisin, you too, and tell me what is wrong with the state's interest for the next 299 years.
Hold on, we're not
There's
opening up.
multiple, I'm sure all of us would have plentiful
You're
answers.
opening up. Thomas Pringle is